Tyler, it's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm very well. A little bit sad to be back in South Florida as opposed to the desert, but such is life. Devin and I thoroughly enjoyed our time in Phoenix. Everybody was incredibly nice, but it just making us want to come back for more and come back more often. But we were happy to just have that opportunity.
Yeah, it was good to have you guys in town. I noticed that Devin is on Sirius XM this morning. I think he got, between the two of you, he got the short end of the stick. I don't know. It's just me. Anyways, let's get right to it. Las Vegas, Phoenix last week. It was a rough week, and then T2. I know we're going to just spend a little time on Las Vegas and then focus on T2. What did you see? What happened in Vegas? Why did this thing blow up?
So obviously got off to a really good start, and it was encouraging to see them get the opening goal in the first 3 minutes because over the past however many 4, 5, 6 games, Phoenix has created a marquee opportunity in the first 120 to 180 seconds, and for them to be able to finish it off was great.
Mm-hmm.
What ensued afterwards wasn't. There were 10 changes to the starting 11. 10.
Yeah, an enormous number.
That's MLS 2 team status, okay? So let's just throw that out there to begin with, and that's not normal. Response was good after their equalizer. Vasquez went to ground, didn't get it right. Manley possesses a lot of pace. Victor, for lack of a better word, does not. The response was good afterwards, right? I mean, Shaft made a great play using his pace. Had we go up to the byline, Vega gets taken down. Vega finishes it. Great, up 2-1. Now we create more chances again in the first 5 minutes. We don't finish them off. And that's sort of been the story in the past 2.5, 3 weeks since Didier has come back, not finishing off opportunities when we have them, and then the other team hanging around and able to put it together. Now, the difference with Vegas was you have those 10 changes. You have a lot of guys who were getting 90 minutes or close to 90 minutes for the first time this season. You had Evan Waldrop in the middle of the park, who's usually not used to getting that many minutes and being the focal and being the 6 on Phoenix Rising FC for the entire match. That's something that he's not used to. Gave the ball a couple of times. Vegas scores. Listen, that was their USL Cup final. Straight up. Like, it just wasn't. It stinks that that's how it unfolded and that it ended up being a 5-2 game. But at the end of the day, you saw the roster that Phoenix carried, not even the 11, but the 18. A lot of guys didn't even travel. So it is what it is. I mean, they were able to, come away with a couple of positives here and there. It left a sour taste in Phoenix fans' mouths. But Vegas in their regular season finale come away with a 5-2 win over a USL Cup contender. Doesn't get much better for them. And, as you mentioned to me before, we have bigger fish to fry, with T2 ahead. And I'm sure that's the next question coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in Vegas for that game along with some of the other supporters. We had a great time right up until the point we started getting our butts kicked. And it was really hard to sit there and watch them celebrate. And we just wanted to slink out of the stadium. Not our favorite moment, but survivable. My main worry as we were leaving the stadium, I was talking to the other supporters, was we can't let this get into the heads of Phoenix for the T2 game. We have to let this go. We got to move on because T2 is a much bigger challenge, a much bigger game for us. T2 rolls into town and they come away with 3 points, 3 agonizing points. Again, what happened?
So, Devin and I had the luxury of actually being there this time, so we saw a lot more that we usually don't see, which was good. First minute, JJ dumps it over the top, tries to go for the chip. Prater hits the post. Solomon hits the crossbar.
Yeah.
Again, that's the first 180 seconds we were creating not 1 but 2 golden opportunities to score the first goal. And especially in this league, if you score a goal, it totally changes how the other team has to play. I mean, Zambrano and Andre Lewis in the middle of the field did not want to get forward. And especially given the fact that they were holding on to a result, it allowed them to get forward a little bit more. Frater misses not 1, not 2, but 3 great opportunities. Now, I will say this. Kavan is a terrific young man, and he did an excellent job throughout that entire game. It was the most active and confident I've seen him on the ball this season, and that Devin and I have seen him. And that was the first thing that we said to each other. But you're a number 9. You're in there because Cortez caught a little knock. Hopefully he's going to be ready to go against T2 on Friday. But he has to finish those chances off. Didier did just enough to create some chances for the likes of Kavan. The bicycle kick that was cleared off the line in the final moments. The refereeing did not help. I mean, you heard Rick's comments afterwards. It was abysmal. I mean, Devin and I had a great look at the Cavani, goal that was called offside. He was on. We had a great look at Didier checking back to get a flick on header. He was on.
Oh yeah, he was totally on.
We had a great look at Joe Farrell getting taken down in the box. He was fouled. There were 3 blatant calls that you or any sort of infant or toddler could have made. But referees are humans and they made mistakes. Not as frequent as that, and a lot of those referees are not making a strong case for themselves, as we talked about Josh Willens at Colorado Springs, to be involved in the postseason. And you hope that the supervisor after the match recognizes that and they will no longer be involved in the USL for the remainder of the season and hopefully have limited games in 2018. But at the end of the day, the referees are the referees. And when it comes down to it, Phoenix had great opportunities, not only in the first half, but in the second, to either go ahead or equalize. Credit to T2, who did just enough. They brought on fresh legs. Phoenix really did not defend at all in the second half. And the one moment that they were asked to, there was a little bit too much space out wide for Jack Barmby. There was a great ball played through. Williams with a good header, able to knot it down. Nothing Waz can do. And you have to give credit where credit is due. T2 hung in there, but again, it's a matter of Phoenix not finishing off opportunities when they have them, and you let teams that aren't supposed to hang around, and they're going to punish you.
It was funny because in the second half, it was almost like you could feel the T2 players looking at each other like, we need to press. They're not getting the ball in the back of the net. Let's just go ahead and push and see what happens. And then that header came, and it was devastating. And then you just saw there wasn't an inflation from Phoenix Rising, from what I could tell. They deflated. They got in their own heads at that point. Kevon coming off the field, and I love Kevon. He was not a happy camper when he was substituted out. I think that was a big blow to him. So I think the physical game, while we're not getting in the back of the net, is a big part of this. I think the mental game right now is even more important with these guys. They've got to have the confidence that they can get the job done. They've got to have the confidence that they can get the ball in the back of the net and that they can defend. And one of the bright spots for me was when, I forget which striker it was for T2, came barreling down the left-hand side and Mala was standing there, and it was like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Leinsdorf. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was. That's exactly right. But boy, it was almost comical. We were laughing. And Mala just drilled right through him and took the ball. And the guy was on the ground and he was looking for a foul, and the ref was like, yeah, no, you just been had, dude. That's all. So it's going to be interesting coming up this Friday. I expect to see a little bit of a different mix on the lineup, but honestly, I can't come up with a lineup that I'm comfortable with that I'd want to put against T2, because I saw 2 different teams on the field with T2. I saw them sitting back and just, waiting to see what would happen. And then I saw more aggressive T2 in the second half. We didn't seem to adjust very well. How do you think we make adjustments?
I'm not entirely sure, because I don't think that I think that lineup can still get the job done. If any one of those chances goes in the first half or in the second half before they get their goal, Phoenix wins that game 2-3, 4-5-0. I really, truly believe that. If you think back to the game at T2, where T2 had a pretty good lineup in, like a very good lineup in, they still were able to score an early goal with Cortez and run away with the game and ended up putting in 4. So it doesn't, I really don't think the lineup matters. I don't, Kevin, because when you look at what Phoenix did in the offseason and the amount of players that they picked up and the people that they kept and brought in, they prepared themselves for moments like this where if Rigi goes down, if Cortez goes down, if Didier's not there for 5 months, you still have a roster that can compete for a USL Cup on a number 1 spot in the Western Conference. That still remains the case. But you just have to finish. It's so, I can say it till the cows come home, okay? But it's just what needs to happen. Goals change games. I mean, talking to some of the coaches afterwards, they're almost at a loss because they prepared them properly. Mm-hmm. The referees didn't help, but they didn't finish and they didn't do themselves any favors. So you just have to take a long look in the mirror if you're Phoenix, and you just have to say, listen, when we get into the final third, it just needs to be a tad bit more clinical. JJ didn't have the opportunities that he had in the Reno game, but that one where he looped over the top, he himself could have finished that, and then that could have avoided the double woodwork from Frater and Solo. As for, personnel-wise, circling back to your question in a roundabout way, I really don't know. You could start Font instead of Mala, at the center back position, be a bit more clinical playing out of the back. That's a possibility. I liked the fact that Frater was playing in the 9, but then again, it was he had to because Cortez, whether he was healthy or not to play in that, wasn't able to go. Now let's keep in mind James Musa getting hurt is a huge blow. And also keep in mind, if Alessandro Rigi is healthy, I guarantee you either in the Reno game, in the Vegas game, or in the T2 game, or in all three, because that's the kind of form that he was in before he gets hurt, he scores or assists on a goal. Because that's how he is, and that's how he changes the game. Phoenix have been riddled with injury, but again, I'll go back to my original point. They spent the money they did in the offseason so that that did happen, which it happens basically to every team in the USL at some point during the season, that you're still going to have the weapons at your disposal to go ahead and to be able to vie for a USL Cup. Now it's just a matter of just getting the final product right. It's annoying to say, and I'm sure people who are watching this are going to be like, Tyler, please say something different. But if you watch those games, there's not really much else that can be said because they did dominate the T2 game for large portions. They did not defend at all in the second half until that Williams goal. So it's just the personnel doesn't matter. Obviously, we're not going to go and shell out the lineup that we did against Vegas, but go with basically the same exact starting 11. You hope that Cortez is healthy enough to go. And just take your chances. You're at home. This is exactly what you fought for. You're in a much better position than you were a year ago, having to travel to Swope and then end up playing a two-day affair. So enjoy the fact that you're at home, see what happens, and just know that there could very well be the last time that you line up with a living legend in Didier Drogba, and make sure that it's not.
I think what you're saying is completely fair. I did speak to Chris. Of course he's got to kind of hide the cards a little bit, but it looks like he's going to be available for Friday. He didn't feel like he was not going to be able to be ready on Friday. And I spoke to Brett Johnson for a few minutes, and Brett didn't like the outcome of the game. Of course, it's very frustrating for the team, but what he thought the silver lining is that this is going to give them that pissed off edge to get on the field and finish what they aren't doing. It's that little bit of, I'm pissed off enough that little bit of extra effort's going to go in, that little bit extra sharpness is going to happen, and maybe that could make all the difference because we need that against T2. We're going to need it in the semi after that game, but where we're really going to need it is if we have to go against Louisville or especially FCC. We will not be able to compromise on the quality of attack. So it's going to be interesting to see.
And think about it this way from sort of like, team of destiny standpoint, right? You have Didier Drogba on your team, a guy who just, at the banquet on Friday, like his speech was just incredibly moving and he wants to win. I mean, he's been a winner his entire career and he wants that. And I think guys on Phoenix are trying to give him that, but it is a lot of pressure and the world is very much watching. And there were a lot of tweets, there were a lot of people around the world who were watching that game. And, just for Didier, world-class players all over the world who were tuning into a USL game because Didier was the team.
It was ridiculous.
And owner of the team as well. Now, if they beat T2, a team that they lost to in the season finale in Didier Drogba's, final speech in a regular season game, and then if Swope Park beats Sacramento, which I'm telling you now is a very, very real possibility, what more could you ask for in terms of storylines? I mean, it's just, the team that's had your number for the past 2 years and that ousted you from the postseason a year ago to take them on at home after beating another MLS2 side. I think that the storylines are there. The narrative is filled out basically until the last chapter. And it
reminds me of U.S. men's national team against Ghana in 2010 World Cup. You know, it just it's all good. Or what was that? 2014 World Cup.
2014. Yeah.
You're right. The drama's high. This is why we watch footy. We love to see our teams win, but we want to have that angst. We want to have that not really knowing what the outcome's going to be. So I think we're getting our money's worth.
And then some.
So you'll be calling the game, of course. I'm recording it again, of course, so I can closely scrutinize your calls after the fact. Really looking forward to it. Friday night, the stadium's going to be packed. It is going to be electric, I think.
It's going to be an amazing atmosphere. I was a little disappointed. Obviously, the weather, I think, deterred a few people for the season finale. I think that it probably would have broken the record that I think is somewhere around 73-60 or whatever it was. I saw an attendance post earlier on Twitter. But I think you're absolutely right. And to see the level of enthusiasm and the consistent banging of the drums, cheering, synchronization from the Banditos and the Red Fury in person, I think that was really special for Devin and I, because we can dance and hit the mute button all we want back in Florida in the studio, when they're banging on the drum like that during a lull in play. But to see it and experience it in second division in America is really, really special. And I think that they're going to end up playing a huge factor in this, a huge factor. It needs to be a place where T2 does not feel comfortable from the opening whistle. They're going to feel comfortable because they just beat Phoenix, a few days ago. But, the drama is there. The script is written. It's just who's going to fill in those last few lines. I'm so excited. I mean, what more could you want? I know that the past 3 results have not gone their way, but I really, from a neutral and even a Phoenix standpoint, you have a home playoff game against a team that just beat you. Enjoy it and just make sure you do everything you can in your power to help Will the boys.
I totally agree with you. Really looking forward to it. I appreciate your time today. As always, some great insight, Tyler. It's just going to be a lot of fun. So we will see you on Friday.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.